Satya, it's such a privilege to be here with you.
Thank you so much for being here and having me on.
Well, thank you for making the time. And I want to start with just explaining where we are right now and how this really reflects what Microsoft is doing.
You know, we're on a treehouse, and I know it's your first time, but it's also my first time. But I think the last time you were here is when we were building it.
Yep.
And it's exciting to be in a place where right now even we're innovating on the workspace itself. I mean, just to ensure that all of our folks have the spaces they need and want and desire as they innovate.
I mean, it's impressive that you are refreshing your company at the same time you're refreshing your campus. Earnings just came out. You beat on not only top and bottom lines, but individual product lines as well. How are you juggling the priorities and keeping everything so successfully running?
I mean, first of all, I think our focus completely remains on two sets of things, which is the sense of purpose and mission, as well as our culture. When we say we want to empower every person in every organization on the planet to achieve more, fundamental to that mission is not celebrating any success we have. In other words, our success is aligned with the success of the world around us, whether it's making a small business more productive or a large multinational more competitive or a public sector institution more efficient. That's, in some sense, the key to any long-term success we are going to have. And to do that, it has to start with really this culture where we have to sort of take a posture every morning that we need to confront our fixed mindset. In other words, what has happened in the past is the past, and the question is, what were all the mistakes we made that we can learn from?
Right, and part of your culture and part of what you try to instill in your employees is to recognize any of those past mistakes, acknowledge them, and move past it. I have to give a big shout out to your entire team, they've just been amazing to show me just what you've been able to accomplish. And I can see it in every single person that I've talked to, that they are not only happy, but they feel like they're thriving and that they have a flexibility to do what they want, which, this week is the hackathon, you've got the garage. These are permanent fixtures inside of the company. Why is it so important for you to focus on giving employees the flexibility to reach outside of what they do on a daily basis?
One of the things that I've always felt is, what's the best way for us to think about the lived culture in a way that it really, instead of thinking of how you work at Microsoft, what if we could turn that equation and said, Microsoft worked for me? In other words, each of us comes into the workplace with a passion, with a personal philosophy even in terms of what we want, in terms of the meaning in our lives. And if there is a way to relate that back to the platform, in this case, that Microsoft gives me and anyone else working at Microsoft, and that's whether it's the hackathon or even, quote unquote, your day job, right? I mean, if you're working at Microsoft, you will be able to somehow or the other connect whatever it is that you're working on and what this company does with one of these personal philosophies or passions. And that's, to me, the biggest unlock any corporation can do, and that's the pursuit we're on.
And how can other leaders learn from your leadership in this respect?
I think it's hard for us to sort of say, here is what others can learn. I think the best thing we can focus on is to say, okay, what are we learning? What are we learning about even the aspirations of the people inside of Microsoft? I mean, that's always going to change. Each time an intern class comes in, right now we have, 5,000 interns at Microsoft this summer. They all have different expectations, higher expectations of what we stand for, how diverse and inclusive is our culture, how we innovate. And so the question is, if we can meet those increasing expectations each year, each summer, then I think we will learn and others will do the same.
And it's so thoughtful. When I was walking around the hackathon, there were these small details, whether it was the prayer room or whether it was a separate quiet room for mothers. And I was also eavesdropping a bit on some of the conversations. Azure came up quite a bit, of course. That's the through line to your business. And I think at this point, people are still wondering, when is Microsoft going to break out Azure numbers, revenue? I mean, can you explain really what Azure is at its core?
Yeah, I mean, for us, Azure is a super important part of what we're doing. But when we think about what's happening here, whether it is Game Pass or xCloud, whether it's Microsoft 365, Dynamics 365, LinkedIn, or Azure, it's really all one platform effect. I mean, first of all these application services are built on the same platform. And that's the same platform we make available to even third parties. So the reason why we think about this is really one unified sort of thesis of what is happening in terms of the technology stack. And we even allocate our capital, our operating expenses along those lines, right? We don't have a fragmented set of tech stacks. We have one tech stack in the cloud and the edge on top of which all these applications are getting built. And it's fantastic to see that. I mean, in fact, the last time we had such a coherent picture was in the mid-90s in the client-server era. And now in what is the cloud and the edge era, I feel fantastic that we have that cohesion.
Is it the right way to think about it maybe as Azure is sort of the tree and the platform is this tree house and you're building from Azure as the core trunk?
It is true. I mean, at the same time, when you sort of put yourself in customer shoes, interestingly enough, in fact, if anything, customers don't really care about any product line of ours. If you look at it, they really care about how are all of what we do, as well as other third-party services that they may be using on top of our platforms, how do they come together to help them innovate much faster? And the reality is, especially we've learned this the hard way, quite frankly. When you're thinking about commercial customers, small or large, you have to really not have the seams of our technology stacks. And in particular, in today's age, where data is everything, if all we do is create more data silos, they're not going to be able to really get the return on their investment. So therefore, I try to avoid, even culturally, that it's not about celebrating individual products and their success, because in some sense they're fairly meaningless, especially when viewed through the customer's eyes.
And that really goes back to your also philosophy of partnering with your customers rather than just selling into them and doing things for them. You're not just teaching them to fish, you're fishing along with them so that they can feel like they can grow as well, that they're not isolated and reliant maybe on just one or two companies to grow.
No, that's a very, very big part. I mean, the thing is, Microsoft was founded in 1975 with this thesis that, we're going to build developer tools. At that time, the market was hobbyists. But now in 2019, everybody's a software company, right? It doesn't matter. You can be in retail, in healthcare, in pharma, what have you. And so in fact, our core to our mission is to build digital capability, right? It's not them just using our technology. The question is, how is our technology helping them create their own digital technology? And that's leading to a very different approach. We don't even think of these as customers who use our products. These are partners we are co-innovating with, all right? Whether it's Walgreens or Walmart, or an entrepreneur in South Africa that last week I met, and who is just creating this amazing backpack that's going to be used for diagnostics in rural areas. So any one of them, we're co-innovating with them.